is true. Oh. Said, I never thought that I could love someone as much as I love you. Uh-huh. And that is you. That is you. That you in the mirror. You have to be able to love. You have to understand that person to be able to bring yourself from yesterday to today. And with that being said, give yourself a pat on the back. Because when you give yourself a pat on the back for bringing yourself from yesterday to today, you did good. Tell yourself, I love you. Take a deep breath. Release. Understand that you are here for you. No one else is coming to help you. Only you. Our amazing guests, we have two beautiful guests that's sitting backstage right now coming to tell you their story. And listen, you see, when you hear from two different perspectives, you understand people better. What Rah say every week on your Trauma Talks? Put yourself in someone else's shoes before casting any sort of judgments, and then you would understand them better. So, today we have a long show. You know, we give the people the spotlight on here. These amazing motivational speakers, these amazing authors, artists on Trauma Behind the Glamour, whether it's a model, an actor, an actress, don't matter who you are, you deserve that spotlight. Your story, your resilience, your truth needs to be heard. And guess how important it is, not just for the person telling the story, but for you. You who are listening, who is watching back this live stream, or for you to understand you are not alone. So without further ado, I have my amazing Dr. Tash ready that's sitting backstage. I'm going to try her. She's going to have some internet issues, but let's see if she's okay. Dr. Tash, are you with us today? Hello, Dr. Tash. We can see you, but we can't hear you. All right, so she's still having some technical difficulties, so we're going to have to do the show without her. All right, so with now, let me introduce this amazing, amazing human being. And I say a human being, but a soul on this earth that was placed here with some amazing challenges. And she flipped the switch on here. And when I tell you flip the switch, she wrote this amazing book together with her son, Joseph, who's sitting backstage. And she actually started going inside there. When you read the things that she wrote about how you got to care for yourself, how you got to love yourself, how she put it for you is like, whoa, here you are, this person put with so many different challenges. And here she is trying to make you understand that you can do it for yourself as well. So without further ado, here we go. Brigitte Shipman. Hello, Brigitte. How are you?
Hello. Thank you for this lovely invitation. I'm very happy to be here.
I am very excited to hear you, and we want to make sure we get everything from you. So the spotlight is on you. The stage is yours.
Thank you. I'm honored to be here. Every time I have an opportunity to share our story, I am filled with gratitude. I understand that this is an honor, and it is really up to me to do a good job to be able to talk to anyone who will listen about our journey on the autism path. It has been, listen, I've been doing this now. My beautiful son Joseph is 33 years old, soon to be 34. And I can tell you that this journey has been beautiful and difficult, but the main message, if you're tuning in or you're listening to this and you just got the ASD diagnosis, the first thing I say to you is you're going to be okay. Um, I know that in the 90s, when Joseph was diagnosed, that this was a very daunting diagnosis. I have coached many parents, and that is still true today. With all the research and all the information that's out there right now, typically I know when parents call me, they are in grief. It's important for you to know that. I didn't understand it. I didn't understand that I was grieving when I got the diagnosis with my son Joseph. And I wish I would have had done the beautiful inside work that I discovered through a beautiful life coaching program with Martha Beck. Um, I would have enjoyed my journey much more as a mother with my son Joseph. When I had any moment with him, I spent it in teaching moments. I'm an educator, um, and so that was my instinct, was to, figure out how Joseph was going to be able to go to school, how Joseph was going to be able to live a happy life. And along this journey, I forgot about me. I think that's pretty typical. If you're a parent, we're always going to be put our kids first. I mean, that's part of parenting, right? Is how, if your child needs help, are you going to help them? And I certainly wouldn't change that. I wouldn't change that. Not if I could go back and change that part of it. It's a no. I would continue to fight for my child. I would continue to advocate for my child. I would do all those things. And what it looked like on the outside, if you would have met me those years ago, you would have seen, by perception, a very strong person, a determined person, and an advocate. I've always been a strong advocate, not only for Joseph, but for everyone. And so this work is continuing through this book that Joseph and I have written. The thing that I would change is how I treated myself. I never took a second to consider, am I okay? That was not a question I asked myself. And I refer to getting this diagnosis or any neurodivergent diagnoses as a life tsunami. We all have other life tsunamis that happen to us, not just a diagnosis, but life is that way. So how do you get through it and still feel joy? I've coached many other mothers who don't feel joy. How do you get that dark cloud that keeps following you around, called grief, and be able to move through it and get a partly sunny sky, weather forecast for that day, and then finally get to a clear blue sky? It takes work. It does take you deciding, giving yourself permission to do this work for yourself while you're advocating for your child. I walked around with a lot of pain because I didn't understand. It's the not knowing, right? What's going to happen to us. And that those phone calls when your child does start school, the IEP meetings, the stares at the grocery store, the judgment that you get from other parents. Well, if that were my child, I would fill in the blank. So we don't have space for that. It does happen. But if you will allow yourself to practice self-compassion, really that's what this is about. I felt like A Mother's Guide Through Autism was part of my advocating as a parent, because I wanted other parents to know that this is not as daunting of a diagnosis as somebody may tell you. You know, I was told Joseph wouldn't go to a mainstream school. He would not be able to be in an inclusive classroom. And talk about inclusion, that wasn't even a word that they used back then. And so, how does my son, who only has echolalic language, he didn't answer yes or no till he was 6, and that was with flashcards. Um, how does that child go to school, you know, in a mainstream classroom that they called back then? And they wanted to put Joseph in a self-contained classroom. So how do you navigate that? How do you advocate? There's a chapter in the book that is really important, I think, and it's advocating with kindness. You can be the head of the game. You're the quarterback, right? You're the one. And really, I was the coach. I was already coaching, although I didn't know that I was, um, the team that would help Joseph get to where he is today. And I tell you, if you're listening to me, the self compassion part of this book and moving through the grief will get you to the other side. You can choose not to, and there is no judgment. I did it, you know. I think I was 50 years old before I started realizing that I had a choice in how I felt. I didn't know. I just simply didn't know. And I didn't understand that I was carrying all this grief around with me. Um, you know, that's a long time to carry a big wall on top of you that feels like it's going to crumble on you at any given moment, and not even having the awareness that the wall is about to crumble on you. Because if we don't choose to find tools and ways to cope with grief and put these gratitude practices into place and find joy, your body will let you know, as mine did. Um, I finally, my immune system decided that it had had enough, and I started having all kinds of autoimmune health issues, that I still deal with today, but I deal with everything from a place of gratitude and joy, and I am so honored to be able to do the work that I'm doing. So if you're listening to this, what I'm offering is hopefully that you will feel inspired, that you will gain some knowledge from this discussion today, and that you will absolutely leave with hope and truly accept that you can be okay this moment with not being okay. You've got this. This is the reason Joseph and I are working together to spread knowledge, hope, and inspiration. And I certainly hope that you at least absorb a little bit of what we're going to be talking about today. And that when you see my son, who was really not going to be allowed to go to school, and you get to see this guy, you will leave inspired, I promise. I know I'm a mother. You will be inspired. And thank you for listening. And I look forward to you meeting my son, Joseph.
Wow, Bridget, amazing. You know, I saw the email come in and introducing you guys, and I was like, it's a connection, to be honest, happened because in 2012, I met this amazing person that became my best friend. Still today, she's celebrating her birthday in 2 days, and she'll be 50. And her son also is autistic. Well, in New York, we say special needs, right? And I watched her journey. Her son is going to be 21. And like you, I'm sitting backstage and I'm all teary. I'm listening to your story and I'm like connecting because I could hear my best friend's Anna's voice in you. And and she goes through life joyful. If you happen to meet her, and I know this is the same about you because I can tell,
Yeah.
you would never tell anything that's happening in her life that's chaotic or anything. You wouldn't think that people are looking at her differently. And the thing about you said some amazing things. And when I say amazing, it's people do not wake up. Because in today's society, from the 80s, you're telling your story coming forward because your amazing son is 33. I couldn't believe when you said you were 50 as well. It's because when you came on here, I thought you were like, oh my God, she looks so young. And like,
Oh, I'm older than that.
oh wow, God bless you. So like, and
Thank
then you
you.
said your son is 33, and I'm going through it to like, oh my goodness. Same thing. When we were in the 90s, my grandmother got diagnosed with Alzheimer's. And it was this new thing for us, especially living in the country like Trinidad and Tobago. It's not America, it's totally different. So the same with you and all the things, all the stigmas behind everything that comes with things that people do not understand, but they're quick to judge. On your trauma talks, we do some really wicked things to you all, and I'm so sorry because we do this. Recently, I don't know if you know him. His name is Tana Bergsma as well. We got his story. He's autistic. He's 23, but he stands with the UN. He goes around fighting for mental health, and he talks. He has a book out there, and we interviewed him. So he did just like you. He told his story, and then we had this little sit down. This is where you really get catch because this is where you tell us. I don't want you to tell me like it's your TED talk now. This is not your stage talk. I want you to be the mother you were at that time. And I want you to go back to a moment when you first received his diagnosis
Mhm.
and tell us what you felt, what you understood what was happening at that
Yeah,
time.
absolutely. And by the way, I go back to that moment instantly, and I can absolutely feel it. I was called in because I thought my son was going to start speech just to help him speak. And I got the information that my son was autistic. And I don't, all I can tell you is in that moment, my ears started ringing and it felt like I was in a cone, like I just warped into something. And I could hear the voices and I could hear what they were saying, but the pain was bigger than what I could absorb. And I call this, I was on my knees moment. The first thing I did was call my husband, and all I did, like, I can cry now. I can go back to that moment. And I don't remember driving home. I don't remember. It was an out of body experience because of the way that it was delivered to me. Um, it almost felt like my son was no longer my son. I could see him. He was the same child I had a moment ago, but all I felt was pain. That's all I felt.
Wow. And it's not that like she was asking herself when she found out this that, oh my God, what's going on? Why me? No. Now you're putting to this place. It's not about, okay, it's not something you buy and you have to return it to the store. Like I remember when I was going to get my Pop Uzzy, we drove 3.5 hours. And when before we go there, we was searching through the internet and going crazy looking for a puppy. And I saw one. And I told my brother all the time. The minute I saw it, it was 4:30 in the morning, and the pop connected with me. Right now, it's just a little bit off the story, but I'll tell you. And my brother watched me in my face, and he says, "Rah, this is a puppy we're talking about. This is a dog. This is going to be part of your family." Well, I already had Ace, but I wanted a baby for Ace. Ace was 8 at that time, and my brother looked at me and he says, "Are you sure you cannot return it?" So, coming back to your story, and this is what people don't understand, when something is wrong with another human being in your life that you're connected to, which you love, even if the person is older and they're diagnosed with something. So many people have stage 4 cancer right now and they're
Mhm.
battling it. And guess what? They have one of the biggest smiles, just like how Bridget went through everything together. She People talk behind your back. People could say what the hell they want. But at the end of the day, you can't return your loved ones to the store or return them somewhere and they'll figure it out. No, you have to be there for them. And you hear, this is not the first time you're hearing where stress and different things like that, where it comes to you forgetting who you are, not taking care of yourself, not loving yourself in the right way, and the autoimmune diseases hits you. See, this is the thing about it. I suffer fibromyalgia. I just told my mom this morning when I woke up. I roll off the bed. It's 9:30. I woke up and I can't. Like in a split second, you're like paralyzed because the pain is so much. You don't know how you're gonna face this. But like I told my mom just though when I was getting ready for the show, I was like, "You want to hear something really stupid and funny?" I'll be trying to move the pain, like if it could move on from here, go to a different place for a while or something. And she's like, "Do you have pain all the time?" I was like, "Yes, all the time." So, like, the same thing, you can't return things, you can't put it down. It happens. And what do? We stand there and we go forward the same way we are going to do it. But you listen to what she said. Major part. And she said it was a very important chapter in the book that she told y'all have to love yourself. You have to understand, you have to take care of you while you're taking care of another human being. If you're not okay, you cannot help someone else. You get what I'm saying? And it's always, you will see a lot of broken people, a lot of a person who may have a disability might be always trying to be the clutch for someone else in a dark time. So always remember to be great, kind, and loving to each other. I love this, Bridget. Thanks for coming out here and doing this. I have another question for you. And the beautiful thing about her book is she talk about grief. And she's speaking about grief and the person is alive. And this is what I love about how she explains everything. How do you move on from grief to acceptance without feeling like you're giving up? Tell them about that.
Well, it's complicated, right? I think grief is one of the most complicated topics because you can feel all five stages of grief in a day. I think acceptance is where it's really about how can I be okay with not being okay. I'm not okay getting this diagnosis, right? I'm not okay with all the daunting things that professionals are telling me about my son's future. I am not okay with that. What I am okay with is that I have a beautiful son. What I am okay with is the gifts that he's showing that he wouldn't have otherwise. So I think acceptance, at least in this area of grief, is really about getting to a place where we look at our life for really the value that it has. And a diagnosis does not determine what your value is, you know. So I became a type 1 diabetic. Any health diagnosis has a grief component as well. So what we do is we look at, okay, this is the daunting. I'm in shock. Then I'm going to move through all five stages, and eventually the peace will come when you give yourself permission, right, to take a breath and go, oh, wait, But look, my son just smiled. Look, he just did an amazing piece of artwork. How does he do that? How does he do the things that he does? And then I start looking at gifts. What are the strengths? So it's really about flipping. We have to flip the way we perceive and look through our lenses. We look through a different lens, and we have to practice that. And I also want to say that I want you to also to be able to move through this to get to acceptance is to say, okay, I am willing to be courageous and move through my grief, whatever grief you're experiencing, because until you move through it, we can't really get to the place of joy and acceptance. So pushing it away is really normal. I want you to meet yourself where you're at any given moment and then feed your soul. Have those tools ready.
Wow, it's really a treat to have you here. We have something called Real Trauma Talks, Trauma Talk Thursdays. I would love to have you as a guest on there to tell your story, spotlight it, and give you like a different episode if you would love that. Because oh, so we had the amazing Ask Miss Emma, Dr. Emma Norfleet from Maryland. We did 4 episodes with her. First, we took her story, and when she tell you her story about being a child, running through the woods, and bullets flying by her head, and this bullets is coming from the father, her own father, her biological father. And here today she is a doctor, a psychotherapist that helps people. And she did this amazing 4 episodes with us, and she broke down Dabda. And people still, as you said, the acceptance is very, very tough. And I could tell anybody this. When I see this is the thing about it in many different religion and spiritual teachings. If you understand it in depth, you will understand. This is Ra said all the time. And she talks about her beautiful son. And let me tell you why she will always say her beautiful son. The soul knows another soul. And then sometimes you see someone all of a sudden and you love them. You just don't understand that feeling that's coming out from inside. It's not lust or something like that, but you actually feel that connection, that pull towards them. Let me tell you, you tip a whole big bucket of water out of the ocean and you come to the seashore and you pour that water out into these little bottles, or if it's little buckets. That little bottle or bucket is you. The water inside is what connects all together. Somehow, some part of the way, we always have to remember every single person is put into your life because it's written for you. That's your challenge. How you go about it. And Ross say this all the time as well. There's nothing like quitting. There's nothing like failure. The minute you step foot to take on to your pathway and you start moving, you did something. As she said, it's the small things, that smile. Give yourself that pat on the back. It adds up, right? It adds up because guess what? I'm from the country Trinidad and Tobago. And let me tell you how valuable water is sometimes for me when I was a kid. When the water goes, it goes for a few days. So when it comes back, even the pipe that's dripping, you want to put a bucket to catch that. And that's what adds up. See, happiness, and they tell you this all the time. They see the times, there are certain times we were from, Brigitte, myself, and we didn't have social media. We did not have all these memes flying around every day to remind you that you are not alone. You are amazing. You're beautiful. We didn't have that. But somehow we got through it. So I want you to count your blessings. Look around you always for the doors that's open. Because the one that you're holding on to, trying to pull it to get it open and it's locked, that's okay. let it go. Look at the brighter picture. As Bridget said, look around for those doors. And when you start walking through them, see Bridget, her smile, her aura. You know how I love to do this? I really love the in person because you get that connection. But I tell people all the time too, when you come on a podcast on a virtual screen and you can feel the energy and that love, hats off to Bridget because guess what? She really is an amazing soul and she really is full of love and good energy. Bridget, I want people to know more about you. I'm telling you. So I'm gonna just go through this one more and just ask you one more question. I'm a horrible person at times, right? So I put together 10 questions here, but we gotta bring Joseph up. I'm excited to hear what a product of love created. And I'm telling you, it's nothing but love. What was the moment you realized Joseph was not someone? And I said this before, as my brother said, Rah, you cannot return it to the store. It's not like that. And he knew I had my other pup before, and I love Ace Beyond, and he knew that. But still, here he is. So, what was that moment when you realized that Joseph cannot be fixed? But to someone, you needed everyone to understand that.
Yeah. Well, yes, no, it's not about fixing. It was always about quality of life for me, for him. And the moment where I knew he was absolutely going to shine and uh, be the ray of light that Joseph is, it was when I held him. He looked directly in my eyes when he was a newborn, and that doesn't happen because I have another child. Newborns don't typically stare into their mother's eyes. It was as if, and I knew it was a moment, as if he told me, we've got work to do here. And then fast forward, Joseph's 14, and he is my student. And I gave my students reflective questions, and Joseph answered it in such a profound way, way above his peers, that I had a moment where I literally cried because I thought Joseph is so much bigger than what I even gave him credit for. There was always a knowing, not about fixing, about quality of life that I wanted my son to have. But this human that I call my son is one of the most profound human beings that I know.
Sorry, I'm just looking at you and I'm like, oh my God, she really is an amazing human being. So Bridget, I'll put you backstage, and this is what we're gonna do. You all had some of Bridget and her powerful energy. So let's get some of Joseph's beautiful energy. So Bridget, I'll put you backstage. I'll bring Joe up and we'll go from there. I'll see you in a moment. Thank you so
Okay.
much.
Thank
Hey Joseph, how are
Well,
you?
hello and good morning. Think I'm doing pretty dang good. Hope yours is good as well. Thanks for having me.
Well, Joseph, I can't say my day is not going anywhere good. I was excited beyond from last night. I was telling two of my colleagues, I was like, you wouldn't believe this. I'm having both mom and son come on here to tell their stories. And they were like, you see, it has nothing. You see how my explanation was? I have nothing to do with the autism spectrum on this or who the person is, if it's the bipolar person or whatever. That's not how I do it. My excitement is to hear both of your stories, and that's the thing about it. It just had me, I don't know, I'm like so thinking about I lie in my bed at 3:30 in the morning thinking I'm gonna meet these people, oh my god. And you guys wrote this book that's out there that it's really amazing. There's so many great reviews on it. But Joseph, from your part, I want the people to understand who you are, so the stage is all yours.
Well, thank you very much for letting me have that. But yeah, my name is Joseph Shipman. And let's see now. I don't remember a lot of the stuff that my mom was talking about at the beginning, but I do believe her. She's never lied to me. So, The first thing I do remember, though, was certainly struggling with processing really loud noises. And some of my very first conscious memories are dealing with that pretty directly, where for about a week or so, in the efforts to get me help that wasn't widely available back in the early 90s, you know, in the Ozark region, um, we basically lived in an area of southern Missouri for a little bit, and we were trying what was then a untested, unproven therapy of essentially it was like exposure, where they would play a sound that was just above my threshold, and they would just keep turning it up until I was able to process a lot of noises that were difficult at that time. I was probably like 3 or 4 years old. But of course, nobody who's 3 years old who is on the spectrum will know that that's what it is. And as far as like self-love is concerned, of course, I never really had much of an issue with that. But I think some of the trauma comes from not just some of the noises I experienced and how afraid I was to go through that, but eventually it would become the judgment of other people, especially in terms of the fact that I don't fit into the box that they label as normal. And of course, it's not something that everybody comes up with on their own. We all get handed little boxes and we're told that this is what normal goes into and this is what not normal goes into. And not normal is kind of bad, you know, which, to be fair, there are certainly some aspects about my condition that can be limiting or in some cases not really desirable. But as far as the accepting myself, I didn't have any issues with that until people started telling me what was good about this or that or the other. And I remember when I first learned I was autistic as well, to actually have that concept. You know, as my mother referenced, I was in speech therapy along with being included in mainstream education. But I would have about a half hour or so where I would basically get tutored in speech and in social interaction and the like. And my therapist at the time read to me a illustrated children's book about a kid on the spectrum. Of course, I didn't quite put two and two together, you know. Uh, and later on the car ride home, I expressed how bad I felt for this kid in this book. And that's when I was let know, I was like, well, you two aren't that different. Um, the boy in the book, though, just had certainly more severe symptoms to deal with. But even with my relatively mild stuff going on, there's still trauma and difficulties that come with that. And like my mom said, you got to really understand that it's about a quality of life and just doing whatever you can to make the person well, yeah, it's just about living the best life you could possibly get out of what hand you're dealt, just like in any old card game. You do with what you got. And I feel like I was pretty fortunate. So my mom's attitude of gratitude very much rubbed off and was always, at least to some extent, a part of my life. Still, though, even though loving myself wasn't initially a problem, people do tell you things. And there were some things that I still have loved and accepted about myself my entire 33 years of life up to this point. And there were some others where I didn't know that I had absorbed it until I could get some distance or something would trigger a realization. And that would be where some of the trauma comes in. And of course, a lot of people on the spectrum experience some degree of this, more severe than others. But mine was the more subtle trauma of not being able to navigate the kinds of social interactions that most people kind of take for just background noise, essentially. You know, not being very good at the social skills many people take for granted. And also the fact that a lot of people can judge those of us who are different or who struggle with that. And they may not even realize it themselves, but they pick up on it. And it's something that gets a lot of us picked on. Some of us realize it, some don't until many years later or at all. And that was something that certainly gave me some stuff that I still work on. You know, a certain kind of hypervigilance with social anxiety, not being afraid that I'm messing up and not even realizing it, because that was a thing that would happen a lot. Would be that I would do something and I wouldn't be able to tell that the tension in the room had shifted. But very fortunately, uh, I had a lot of people in my life who believed that I could have a good quality of life, like my mom and many of the people that she was able to make connections with her efforts to help me, you know, be as happy as I was anyway. You know, I was a pretty happy child, I think, but yeah, dang, I just lost my train of thought there, but
You're doing great, Joseph. You're doing amazing. Oh, wow.
well,
I
yeah,
think,
and I noticed that even now in my head too, where I had a bit of a lull. You know, there's a big self-critic there, but
listen, man, you spoke so many things that if it is that, like I tell people, to be raw, you have to be, I think, on some spectrum of crazy, if that's how people like to put stigmas on it. Because in my mind, my head, my vision, my every single thing that I work on every single day, my friend, it's, you had to be, ask yourself, oh my God, I don't want to be in this guy's head. You're fine. I'm
well,
sure
hey, and
you're.
you know what? I still got plenty of great skills that allowed me to have nearly a decade of experience in broadcasting. So,
See what I'm talking about right there?
mhm.
And you know the X-Men, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I
Uh,
never was a comic book guy, but I do love the themes in that. I think I know where you're going, but
you see what I mean? You see what I mean? And at the end of the day, when a child or someone cuddle up in a corner and tell you they feel like they don't belong, it's because you know why? Just like in the X-Men,
mhm.
human beings make them feel like that. Ross say this.
Yeah,
Human
society
beings,
tells them that they're yeah.
yes, human beings are the one that
Mhm.
destroys other human beings. I have a question for you, and it comes around
Yeah.
the same, basically in the same aspect of it, because like they're the let's just put it neurotypical people, like in that sense. You know, what helped you to really embrace being on the spectrum?
I don't know if there was really ever an issue where I don't think I've ever hated myself because I was autistic per se. Um, I think I did develop a bit of a consciousness around, like, a kind of social acceptance, especially in terms of wider social acceptance and advocacy, but I don't think I ever quite hated myself in that way. I think there was just some things I wish I was good at or this or that or the other. But, you know, like my mom says, it's really important to focus on gratitude and looking at the things that we can do and really leaning into that as much as possible, I think.
Ah, I like it. And with that, I just want to swing in this question here. So, like, what do you think in society today? What do you think society can do better to, when it comes to inclusion in school, work, and friendships?
Well, yeah, that is a really big question, and I have a lot of answers to that because, for one thing, I don't think that social issues can necessarily be isolated in the sense of, well, we can do work for this group of people and this group of people alone, and we'll focus on the other groups later, as though their issues don't interconnect. And there are lots of issues that overlap, and we have to be willing to look at a lot of that stuff simultaneously, for one thing. But for another, I could be colored in my experiences by this, but I really think that following a similar approach to what my mom and I did with mainstreaming or including kids into mainstream classes, but also giving teachers and educators much more resources to be able to deal with any students that they might be tasked with including into a mainstream class. Because that's a big overlap too. A lot of teachers being underfunded, under resourced, and the like, and being stretched very thin, being expected to look for after 30 students at a time, and then you got one kid who freaks out with a fire alarm. Try as they might, a lot of, or some of the teachers, I should say, didn't quite know how to deal with some of that with me. But I think as this becomes more common, we're going to start to see a lot more change in that, especially with people standing up and advocating like we do, I suppose.
You see how you said that? I want you to add in here, like, what are some of the things that, like, for coaches and stuff like that, who help kids on the spectrum, like, what are some of the things that you can use as tools for them to help and understand more?
Yeah, I don't know. That feels like a really big question to me. Because part of it is there is a certain expertise that I know that they have that I don't. I don't have a college degree of any kind, but I definitely do a lot of research and I know my life experience. And I think as long as you have a fundamental groundwork of focusing on improving quality of life and enabling the person to just live the life that they want with as much inclusion, acceptance, and independence as possible, I think you're on the right track, at least, because everybody's situation is different.
Wow, this is beyond beautiful. And right about this time, I just want to pop your mom on here because I have a question. I want to see the expressions as we ask this question. Hi, Brigitte. Welcome back. You really did create a really piece of art here. I wouldn't lie. Amazing. And you really did say my mom kind of rubbed off. He said that, and I'm like, all right, let's see how it goes. So, right about now, I want to ask both of you this one question. How does it happen when personalities clash?
I don't know. Ours don't really clash that often. My mom and I have agreed that we often travel and work really well together. I mean, miscommunication happens sometimes, but what two people who love each other don't do that occasionally?
Yeah. I would say this, Joseph, and you come in whenever you want to.
Sure.
I feel like there are times that this is something that is important for anyone who's listening, that miscommunication is typically the cause of any, argument or disagreement or whatever. And I have learned, Joseph has taught me, this is a good thing, to really listen closely, because sometimes Joseph and I speak two different languages. He, is, and Joseph, you come in when you want. He's still, Joseph is up here intellectually, and I'm somewhere down around. Sometimes I pop up, sometimes I pop down. So sometimes I don't know what he's talking about. And I just have to politely say, okay, can you try to explain it to me again? Because I don't understand what you're saying. So
Well, and you were a
I think
teacher,
it's
so you taught me how to explain stuff like that really well too, right? So,
yeah, and I think my experience as an educator has come in handy. But what I would say to that is, when we do have a disagreement, we know to check and make sure that what was it that you were actually trying to say, versus this is you said, and approach it as, here's what I'm hearing. Did you mean that? Can you help
mhm.
me?
Well, in our
Uh,
necessity, I should say, to talk about conflicts directly has really helped me in a lot of other relationships. Um, yeah, not just romantic or otherwise, but just in acquaintances with normal people, where sometimes it'll catch them off guard a little bit, but sometimes it's relieving when I deal with something directly or want to talk about something directly. So,
Yeah, and discipline is like, raising a child on the spectrum is very different. I think I'm a different I was a different teacher for every student, and I'm a different mother for each of my sons, because they are not, I mean, when somebody treats another human how you think they should be and how they should operate, I think that that relationship's going to struggle.
You know my little story at the beginning where I spoke about the water and dipping the water out and whatever, and I stopped and we continued. The end of it is we are all connected as we are part of that water, but the difference is we all think differently. Each person is going to have their own opinion. Each person is going to think about a situation in their way. Have you ever heard this saying? There's always two sides of the story? No, it's actually three, because it's the one that you, when you are the third person, the story that you are going to see in your head as well. Bridget could explain it, Joseph could explain it, but Ra has to see it. And when it comes together in my head, it's a total different story again. Every one of us are different. And of course, you will clash. But the love and the patience, all I was hearing in your head was that patience, that calmness that you have to be able to do this, Bridget. Amazing. And, I guess, as Joseph said, the teachings of you being a teacher and who you are really helped you walk this path very beautifully. It's not all the time, because I have seen certain people who have kids with special needs. I mean, I was in the daycare and the daycare business, and I had a home daycare, and there was this kid. I always remember one day he and you got to remember, this is before 2018, before I start taking this path onto becoming Mr. Trauma Talks. So I think this was like 2017, and this all of a sudden this kid, every day we're there, and it's happened like two times before. He would just be screaming, but his bigger brother was always there, and he used to hold him, and and I keep telling the other girl about it. So this particular day where I knew I was on this side with one other kid, and there wasn't much kids in the daycare, and she was feeding a little baby right down there. And he just got up because he was just sitting so nicely. He's like one of the most sweetest kids. Love him. And you just saw the chair flying from across the room, just whoop close to the baby. So I was like, he got just tantrum, but like he had this, I don't know, this love for me. So he's always, what happened? Like always quiet and nice with him. He's very sweet. So when the parent come now, and the parent never told us that he was autistic, because he thought we wanted to take the guy. Now, when you do that, you open up a whole book for Ra, because now I want to make sure, even though I know what's happening, I know all about autistic kids, we have all the special needs around, but at the end of the day, when you tell us now, we know how to handle the situation in a different light. It's a total different thing.
Mhm.
So being part of that, it really helped me to open up more, especially when it comes to kids and understanding. So you really are doing a great job. You did an amazing job. And Joseph, this, I love how you came on here and you explained a lot for a lot of us. So I want to ask you one more question for both of you, because it's already almost 1 hour into it. What does believe mean in your journey together? And I want each of you to do it. I have a mental health conference coming up on Saturday, and it's called Believe. We do a virtual conference every single month. We have our in-person on Broadway in Times Square coming up on June 11th. So our conference on Saturday, it's called Believe, and everyone is going to give a talk. I would love to have you guys pop in if you want. And then we have a mental health conference coming up on March 28th, on it's a Saturday again, and it's going to call Forgive Yourself. So with that being said, is I would love to have you all come back and say something more, because spreading what you do, and especially you want a lot of people get their hands on a copy of your book. So before, I want you all to tell everyone in your way, what does how believing helps with your story?
Do you want me to go, Joseph?
Yeah, I
I've
think it.
got,
Yeah,
okay. Um, I never, uh, believe to me is anything is possible. That's how, when I think of that word and what it means to me personally, is anything is possible. And I really do believe that. I do believe that, no matter what, if you believe in yourself, if you believe that you can, and I think mantras are so helpful to keep that energy going and that light going. But absolutely, every day I get up when I practice my gratitude, and anything is possible. That's what it means to me.
Joseph?
well, I have a bit of a complicated history with the word belief because, well, I grew up as a Christian, and later in my life, I left the religion for, you know, a bunch of personal philosophical reasons and so on. So I came to have a low opinion of belief because at that time it meant to me to believe in stuff that you didn't know was true for sure. And I saw it as intellectually weak. But then later in my life, I came across, funny enough, a fantasy novel series called the Discworld novels by the late Sir Terry Pratchett. And in one of those books, it talks about belief pretty directly, and it confronts that question. And basically, the conclusion, I guess, of what belief is to me is kind of like my mom said, that anything is possible. That early in my life, I thought it was weak to believe in things that weren't real. But now I understand it to be very necessary, because if you're not able to believe things or understand things that aren't currently true as of this moment, how could they become? How could things like love or peace or justice or mercy become? Because they don't exist with physical properties in the universe. They come from us and then they become real. But
Wow.
belief is about, I guess, creating in that way. So,
I love, love, love this.
I told you he was profound.
He is amazing, and so a lot of similarities with how Ra thinks. I'll tell you this, Bridget, to connect with you, those little affirmations that you spoke about, and this is one thing I tell them all the time. I can, I shall, I will. You can, you shall, you will. It will happen. Just keep believing. And listen, yes, Joseph, I wrote my book called Believe. It's not released as yet because it's always an adjustment. And when I say adjustment, it's like you change in life. You put a whole prospect. So like I wrote this book since 2023 into 24, and it's just put down there. So I told my mom, just a few months ago, I went back there. I said, Mom, it's going to happen in the right moment. But just to swing into it, I told her, I said, I'm just going to read the book back and see if there's anything I would say differently from then to now, because it's been 2 years. And I think by reviewing it, it's ready to publish, because I made sure I asked myself a couple of times, would I change anything? Would I do anything differently than how I was thinking then? But who I am today and who I was yesterday during my spiritual life. Actually, when I did my abstract, it was accepted to speak in Oxford University because of the things I said. And when it comes to spirituality, I said, the books are there, the stories are there to guide you. I learned to love because of religion, because God said to love. And I carry this through my life. The thing about believing is no religion, no man, no president, no one can help you to get off when you're down. Only you can do it for you. And that is where the biggest belief comes from, because you have to believe in you. And I'm telling you, with everything that is taught to you, you put it in a positive way. And I love how you guys do it. Ross said this all the time as well. What is meant for you shall never pass you by. And what passes you by was never meant for you. Just as There once was a man who had the blues because he had no shoes. Down the street, he met a man who had no feet. I want to tell you all, thank you so much for joining. I want you both, before that you go, please let everyone know where they can find you and tell them to make sure and go out there and get a copy of this book, because even self, just like those people listening on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple iTunes, wherever you're listening to this podcast from, if you're not re-looking at the live stream, where you're listening to, share. So someone out there might be able to get that help they need and understand they are not alone. So please share. Brigitte, please tell them where they can find you. And don't forget about the book. Joseph, you as well.
Mother's Guide Through Autism, literal flip through the eyes of the guided, and mothersguidethroughautism.com. You can find everything that we do there.
Yeah, that's right. You can find everything we do at mothersguidethroughautism.com. I do also have an author Facebook page under Joe Shipman Author. That's on Facebook. But again, yeah, you can find that and everything that we do on our website at mothersguidethroughautism.com.
Well, this was really amazing, and I want to tell both of you thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for taking a chance on your trauma talks. This is what we do. We bring people's stories from where they were to where they are today. This is Rah, Brigitte, and Joseph signing off for today. Until next time, don't forget, share love, be nice, be kind. It's all free.